the Kingdom Footprints podcast, a place where the footprints of faith are traced across the nations and the stories of God's work are brought to life through the voices of FMI workers around the world. This week, we get to travel to Germany and speak with Anna-Marie Mazzone. Anna-Marie works with street addicts and alcoholics, leading a team that weekly brings coffee and sandwiches to people struggling with addiction. The team shares the gospel, prays, listens, and offers support and practical help when people are ready to get out of the drug scene. The church where Anna-Marie serves, she works with youth and oversees outreach ministries that serve refugee families from Syria, North Africa, Iran, and other Middle Eastern countries. She also leads a German-speaking Alpha course for new believers and Let's Talk, a ministry of sharing biblical truths about difficult questions like, if God is good, why does he allow suffering? Or, do all religions lead to heaven? It's a powerful conversation. We also touch on this conversation about being single in the field and the importance of having a sending pastor and people in your corner. But before we jump into this conversation, if you find this episode or any of the episodes that we've had so far encouraging, would you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button from wherever you're listening? That simple thing ensures that you don't miss an episode, and it helps us get this good news and these great stories out to others. Now, on to my conversation with Anna-Marie. Well, Anna-Marie, thank you so much for joining the Kingdom Footprints podcast. I am so excited for this conversation today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple things, but the first thing that I ask every single person that comes on the podcast, it's a surprise question. I'm going to say when I come back to Germany, because I'll talk about this in a quick second. I have been to Germany once before. And so when I come back, what's the first thing you're going to feed me? What's your favorite thing to eat in Germany?
We'll take you to the local Hofbräuhaus. It's a local brewery as well as like traditional German food, and give you pig's knuckle bone that's been deep fried.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
Okay.
It's called Schweinshaxe. It's the knee knuckle of a pig, the joint that comes together, and they cook it so that it's very tender, but then they deep fry it so the skin gets all nice and crispy on the outside, and inside it's just flaky tender and like the most delicious ham that you've ever had.
Oh my gosh. That sounds phenomenal.
Yes.
That
it's
sounds
usually
so
served with
good.
Sauerkraut and a beer sauce. So it's pretty darn good.
Nice. I love it. That is, yeah. Look, adding that to my list. I'm just making like a running list of foods to eat around the world. You know, that's one thing I love about FMI is being a part of this family. It's like, I know people all over the world now, and we may not be the closest friends, but if I'm in your country, you better believe I'm going to call you and be like, can I stay on your couch?
Please.
You know?
Please come. Please stay on my couch. I might even give you the bed. I'll take the floor.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do that to you. But anyways, Anna-Marie, you are serving in Germany. It is a place that has been super close to my heart. And this is one reason I'm so excited about this conversation, because back in high school years ago, I took German in high school. And at that point in my life, like I thought I was going to be in Germany as a missionary. And we hosted a German student. I got to go on a short-term trip. And while I was playing with some kids in Germany, actually, this little boy right here, I was finding it. Yeah, this precious boy, this little blonde-haired boy, probably 3 years old, asked if he could play. And it was in that moment that the Lord was like, hey, this is what I have for you for the rest of your life, is redeeming the joy of the Lord in people's lives through play. So Germany holds a very special place in my heart. I was in the southern part of the country. And so anyways, having that little bit of a background, it's not about me, it's about you today and what the Lord's doing through you in Germany. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you at? And you don't have to jump into ministry stuff because we'll talk about that in a second. But what's kind of, where are you from? How did you get to the mission field? Who are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, so I am a Pacific Northwest native. I was born and raised in the Seattle-Renton area up in Seattle, Washington, and love hiking in the mountains, loved being on the ocean, and grew up in a broken home. My parents split. I was actually 6 years old when I met Jesus for the first time. But my point of that story is that I wasn't actually discipled until I was 15 and joined a church. Joined a Foursquare church. I had met Jesus because he came to me. He revealed himself to me as I was alone in my room. That's a really cool story. I don't know if we have time for that. But I just kind of wandered through life for 9 years, literally thinking I was the only one who had this cool personal relationship with this invisible Jesus that lives inside of me. And he was basically my invisible best friend for a long time. And I had a deep personal relationship, but I had no idea how to read a Bible, or that there was a Bible, or how, what church was supposed to be about, or anything like that. I didn't have anyone discipling me until somebody invited me to their youth group, and it just so happened to be a Foursquare youth group that I went to. I was pretty broken at that point, and they kind of saved my life and discipled me in just loving on me, teaching me, growing up with them. And then when I started to get into missions, I first went with a group. I did a 2-year mission trip in Europe, starting in Norway, and then they sent me out in a team to Germany, and I spent 2 years basically doing street ministry, planting a house church with young people in Germany, in Munich. But that was just a program. That was where I first felt like, hey, this isn't just a short-term kind of thing. I had planned to go for 1 or 2 years before going to college. But while doing that, while there, God said, this is not just short-term. This is what you're called to. I felt like I had come alive. I like to use the screwdriver analogy. I say a screwdriver can do a lot of things. You can open a can of paint. You can start a car with a screwdriver. You can do a lot of things. But what it's really good at is what it was made to do. And that's the screw and screws. And so I felt like that, like I suddenly was doing what I was made to do, and everything changed. So, but that was just a program. And so I ended up coming back to the States and looking at what was really important, not just in missions and going out, sharing the gospel is obviously a big one, but looking at that verse of Matthew 28:19, where it says, and make disciples. It doesn't go and say evangelize everybody. It says go and make disciples, and realizing that if I'm going to go permanently, it really needs to be through the church that needs that spiritual covering. And so I started looking into Foursquare. And what is Foursquare? I had no idea that Foursquare had a great missions program. I was kind of naive. Went to a small church. We didn't have Foursquare missionaries that we were sending out through my church a whole lot because they were small. But yeah, so when I started looking into it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so I talked to my pastor, and long story short, did a lot of trips just to kind of scout out where to go, where could I possibly, is the door open? Do they want somebody crazy like me? And meeting people, making contacts, and then started the process of training and going and deploying. And I've been now here for 13 years. I deployed in 2012, and I've been here in Bielefeld, Germany for the last 13 years. And I get to work with a local Foursquare church that is amazing. They're super mission minded. They love people. They're international. They have people from more than 40 different nations have come in. We have little flags on our ceiling about when people belong to our church from a different nation. And so all the flags are up there, and you can just see it's a whole row up there. So it's very international, and we have multiple languages that we interpret into. And I get to work with this church in ministering to the people in the church, but also planting a street church, kind of a daughter church of theirs in the context of drug addict scene that's here in Bielefeld. And I've been doing that for the last 13 years.
Wow. That is amazing. I can't wait to jump into more of that specific ministry stuff here in a minute. But before we jump into some of that, did you always know that you wanted to go to Germany? I know you had been sent out from Norway and kind of had that exposure, but was that something that was inside of you? I didn't know where Belize was before 2019, and here I am full time.
Yeah.
So was that always something for you? Okay.
No, although when I look back, I can see how it was always something on God's part, and he'd been pointing at it my whole life, and I was just blind. But I had just thought, hey, why not Germany? I had also, like you, actually had taken German in high school. Had gone on a foreign exchange trip for a summer month or something in Germany, and hosted somebody when they came. And you could see all the little points in my life where God was pointing me in this direction. But it wasn't really something that I had on my mind as far as missions. When I deployed with this group, I was like, yeah, it could be Germany, it could be Italy. I have Italian forefathers. I also have German forefathers. So that would kind of be interesting. all of that kind of stuff divinely pointed me in the direction. And it was while being in Germany that I really fell in love with the country and the people.
Sure. Yeah. I love that. I love how each of us have such a unique story of how we've gotten to where we're at, whether we're serving in an international context, whether we're serving in a local context in the States or whatever. I just love how the Lord works it all out, right? And it's like, why don't you go here? Why don't you do this? You know, I just got actually within the past 24 hours, I've had a conversation with 2 different people who are like, hey, newsflash, completely unexpected, but we're transitioning out of this position and we're going this direction. And we weren't expecting it, but it's good and it's right and it's perfect. And so anyways, I love that. So yeah, you know, I had mentioned I was in Germany in 2005. So it's been a number of years, 20 years now. Wow, it's 2025. Wow. So
that's a number.
right? Oh gosh. Excuse us while we both just have a minute of a mini heart attack.
Yes, exactly.
Moving on.
I can't believe I'm that old.
Exactly. I'm not that old. What are you talking about? Yeah. So 20 years ago, you know, when I was there, something that I saw is like in a spiritual world and kind of the climate and culture of Germany. And again, I was more down south. I know you're more up north, but was this idea not necessarily of fatherlessness, but more I would see kids and young people wrestle with this, like, my dad says that there is no God. And I know that my dad loves me and cares for me, but you're over here showing me this love and this care, and you're saying that there is a God. And I could see that there was this wrestle in people of like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know how to believe this. So fast forward to now, can you share a little bit of just what is the spiritual climate and culture of Bielefeld? How do you say that? Is that right? Bielefeld.
Very
okay.
close.
Yeah. So what's that culture like? What's that climate like spiritually where you're at?
Well, that is actually changing. It's a slow change, but it is changing over time, primarily because this city, as well as the entire country, but also Bielefeld, it was inundated about 5 years ago, well, more than that now, 7 years ago in 2015, with the whole Syrian war and everybody was fleeing the country. And we had millions, literally over 5 million refugees come into the country. And Bielefeld was one of those first accepting cities that processed them and gave them places and just first cared for them. And then over weeks and sometimes months, helped them to spread them out in different places throughout the country. And so we saw a lot of people come in, and a number of them have stayed as well. And so Bielefeld is so international. I can literally go down the street and hear almost any language that you could ever think of. And you can hear it in Bielefeld. And there will be people where we'll do like evangelism on the streets. And we'll go up and talk to people, and they won't even speak German or English. They'll speak some other language that I can't pronounce. So yeah. It's pretty, that has changed a lot of the spiritual atmosphere. So I would say that currently it's in a state of confusion, perhaps is the best word for it. You have the German culture and spiritual atmosphere, which basically says God is irrelevant. Yeah, we heard about that. We've done there. We've been that. We've done there and been that. That's very German. I apologize. We've been there. We've done that. We've tried that. Yeah, that's the official. Christianity is still the official religion for the country. But you can walk down the street and ask people if they're Christian, and they'll say sure. And then you ask them if they believe in God. They're like, no. So Christian for them is not a follower of Jesus. But Christian is were you born and your family is part of the state church. So that's the German culture. And then you've got this influx of all these refugees with very spiritual cultures, most of them.
Sure.
Most of them Muslim, but very spiritual culture. And so there's a lot of transition and things changing in the city right now. As a result of that, people questioning a lot of things, which is great for a potential spiritual awakening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the other thing that I kind of but observed is the whole idea of like provider. I feel like it's very, in a lot of European countries, is like, I can provide for myself just fine. Like, I've got a good job, I've got this and this. So like, why would I need a God? And they don't see that need. So that's very interesting. I did not know about the refugees even coming and being in Germany and all of that. That's very eye-opening and a new way of praying. And talk to me for a few minutes about what God has invited you into as a response for that spiritual need. And I'm sure ministry has changed for you over the past 13 years. You are, and I know we've talked about this beforehand, but like myself, you're single on the field, and that brings its own challenges and dynamics that we'll talk about. But for now, like, what has the Lord asked you to do and invited you into? And so what's going on ministry wise?
Yeah, well, it feels like there's more and more that's coming. So I talked about the refugees coming in, and one of the things that I get to do with partnering with this local Foursquare church is that God blessed us with key people, translators who could help us teach their own people. And so for many good 3-4 years, a lot of what I was able to do with this church was faith foundation classes from teaching, and I would preach or I would share, I would do classes, and it would be translated into Arabic or into Persian and sometimes into both. And, it's hard to say a sentence and then it's translated into one language and then you have to wait and that's translated into a third language and then you get to say your next sentence. But that was a lot of what we would do in preaching and a lot of what we would do in teaching as we just had these refugees come. I still do a lot of faith foundation classes. We still have Iranians come. A lot of time we have now trained up. We have a team of those that went through, were discipled, and they're now leading their own home groups, their own people in faith foundation classes. But we're still doing that and training up young leaders. So that's really cool to see is just how that gets going. When you make disciples who make disciples, the ball just starts rolling, and that's
praise
awesome.
the Lord.
So that is one thing. The other thing, touching on what you already mentioned, this sense of kids kind of going, there's no God, or there can't be a God, or what everybody says that there's no God, why are you saying there is one, is working with young people, youth from 12 to 35, young teenagers and young adults, and a lot of them coming from unchurched families, as being asked by their friends who are coming into church, who maybe have grown up in the church or found, got to know us in some way, some manner. So I get to do that. When I first arrived at the church, I saw a bunch of teenagers that were bored out of their minds, sitting in the hallways and just not having anybody to help them make church fun for them.
Sure, invest in them.
So not that they didn't care for them, they just didn't have anybody to do that at the moment. So see a need, fill a need. I stepped up and started doing it. And now those kids are all grown and they're doing their own thing now. Really dating myself. But that's also continuing, building up leaders for that and getting ready to make that hopefully be able to go off on its own. And then the last thing, our big focus is, as I said, doing a street church, kind of a daughter church plant, but on the street with drug addicts and alcoholics in the middle of the city center, and just being able to change the community, being able to change and do good for the community, but just value these people who feel very undervalued and question their own value in their own eyes, or in anybody's eyes for that matter. That's a pretty special ministry where it's not about an outreach going, preaching the gospel, come with us, we'll disciple you over here, and taking them out of the scene, which is great and needed, but there's a lot of people that get left behind in that kind of a setting. And so I really feel called to go to those that are the left behind or the unreached, so to speak, where they might not get out of their drug addiction or alcohol because they're so ingrained in it. They've made a career out of it but they still, even as a drug addict, you can follow Jesus and you can be saved and you can start having a personal relationship with him. And so I want to be the church that's on the street where when you graduate and you do well, you actually leave the church and you go somewhere else and join another church.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, that's kind of my heart. Being a
I love it.
church.
So can you unpack that a little bit for me more of just like, what does that look like? Like weekly, daily, kind of because that seems like, I mean, you're passionate about everything and you love everything you're doing, but like, this feels like this is really your heart's desire to really pursue. And so, what does that look like? I was just actually last night or yesterday able to walk some property, and the Lord's given me a vision to eventually own some property and build some stuff. But while I was on this other property and seeing a version of what I'm believing for, I just had this moment where I was like, if I had this right now, what would I be doing with it? Like not just running programs, but like you're saying, how would I really utilize it? And I'm like, I don't have a full vision for that. I need to get with the Lord. So anyways, that being said, it's like, you have this vision. How is it being implemented or what
Mhm.
And then also in the same breath, like what are some areas that we can potentially partner with you in that?
Sure. So very practical. Every Thursday we get together. There's a team that comes together from multiple churches. So this is an inter-church ministry where people from not just from this local Foursquare church, but from around the different churches in Bielefeld come together, and we make coffee and tea and sandwiches and pray and get prepared. And then we go out. We have a spot that we stand on every time where they kind of gather at kind of the scene. We go to their living room, so to speak. And then we set up a wooden cross, and we set up the table and coffee and sandwiches. I share a very short 2-minute sermon message about something that's relatable that they can relate to. Oftentimes it's something like how difficult it is to forgive somebody when, and what do we deserve? And we'll play a little skit or something, and I steal their wallet. And he's like, what, what's normal? What do I deserve? Call the police, lock me up, throw away the key. That's what we all deserve. And that's something that every single one of them understands, because all of them steal from each other. But then we talk about what if the person forgives me and mercifully doesn't, chooses to let go of that offense. We talk about mercy, and we talk about the difference between mercy and grace. So mercy says, okay, I'll let that go. But grace is, I'm going to help you go one step further, help you restore you to something better. And we play that out in a little skit, and that's just a 2-minute little nugget or something as similar does that. And we'll share that and say, you know what? We all kind of say, oh yeah, whatever, that was yesterday. But real grace is helping the person, accepting them where they're at, but helping them to move past where they're at.
Yeah.
And that was the grace that God showed us. He came to us and loved us and accepted us in Jesus, but he also gave us the power and is walking with us to help us get out and to move on. And that's the relationship that he wants to have with you and I. So something as simple as that. And so we'll have a little mini nugget, and then we'll have pray the Lord's Prayer to start our church service. And then it's basically they line up for coffee and tea and sandwiches, and we have personal conversations. We'll pray with them. We will bring my guitar. We have other people that have instruments, and we'll play worship there. And it's wonderful to see how the atmosphere changes. Like we will be there. We'll see a pool of blood on the floor where people were just fighting, and we'll come, set up, and start playing worship music, and the fights stop. The people are happy. We'll even have people with like a harmonica or other, instruments that they might have. They'll come. They know that we're there. They'll bring their instruments special, and they'll come and play with us.
Wow.
And we'll have drunkards come and sing with us and have no idea that they're praising God, but they're singing and having fun and dancing and just joining in. And there's just something that changes in the atmosphere there, and they're noticing it. Not just us, but they're noticing it and saying,
Amen.
This place is different when you're here. And
Amen.
Others have come and said, what you guys are doing is really important. Thank you that you've been so faithful. They're saying to us, I have been clean for 3 months because you guys have been praying for me. Or, because of you, I've found my faith again. My grandma's been praying for me forever, but I kind of wandered far away, and I was so mad at God because of so much that's happened in my life. But you guys have helped restore my faith in God, that He really does love me. And things like that just, those are those moments where you go, this is why we're doing it.
Yep.
And that's what it means to be the church in a drug addict setting, where we're not saying you have to quit the drugs, but we're saying you are loved and valuable just where you are. And people ask us, the new people, they ask us, they say, why are you here? Rain, snow, whatever. Why are you doing this every week? And we just say, because you're worth it. And that opens hearts. That opens conversations. And we pray with people. We follow up with them. We visit them in detox centers or in hospitals or in jail, wherever they end up. We visit them and build relationship with them. And it is discipleship in the context of relationship. So that's what Street Church in the moment looks like. We also bring soups on Sundays, and we do different things. So there's a lot that I could say about that, but that's kind of the basic package of what it looks like and where our heart is, and how that just loving and being there, being the church and saying we're a church and you can be a part of our fellowship is impacting those people and those lives. I had one guy, really quick testimony.
Yes, go.
He came up and thank you. He came up, he's like, man, I have an 8-month-old son. I just, he's brand new son, and he loves his son and he loves his girl. Both of them are drug addicts, trying to get clean. And he says, I really, she's Catholic. I grew up evangelical, and I want my son to be dedicated to the Lord, but he wouldn't be accepted because of his drug addiction in another church. So he came up and asked me and said, you're a pastor. This is a church? I said, yes. Can you do that? I said, absolutely. And so I went to his home. He gathered his family. I brought a verse and some anointing oil, and I anointed his son. And together with the family, we laid hands on this little boy, and we prayed for him and blessed him and gave him to the Lord. And then I left that little picture frame with the verse in it for them to have with the card and whatnot. And they had, it was a testimony not just for this man, but also for his family and this opportunity. And they are actually doing better. They're not, when I don't see them on my street church, that means they're doing well or they're in jail. So, but he's doing better. They're getting better. He was able to be a dad and what change that brought for his family. And I believe that they're actually doing well right now. I haven't seen them in a while, so I'm assuming that's a good thing. Yeah. So those are little stories. Prayer points are basically always for wisdom, particularly for how we interact with people who are drug addicts and alcoholics. There's always a need for wisdom, particularly for the team. As I said, we're from different churches, so please pray for unity in our team. Not that we're disunified, but the enemy always likes to attack unity. And if he can disband or cause division or something in the team, I always pray for the unity in the team, because that's just a big one. That I'm asking the Lord in this next season, give me the next key that will open the door of discipleship. We've built relationship with them. They've learned to trust us. They're starting to come to little Bible studies, some of them. I even have a guy who is ready to be water baptized. But we need to get to that next step. And what does that look like in this scene? And those are questions that I have. I've got ideas of a room. I actually think of calling it the living room. But because we are invited to their living room, but someplace nearby, someplace they could walk to easily, kind of like a walk-in center where we could meet with them on a more personal basis, do a little bit more discipleship. Yeah. But honestly, I'm still figuring this out. I'm still trying to hear from the Lord. Is that my idea or is that your idea? So praying for that next key, for that next vision step, I would really appreciate just to hear and have confirmation of where to go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness, I love hearing that story. And I think one of the things that, as you were talking, that kind of kept sticking out to me is that, one, like you said, your inter-church, like interdenominational evangelism, which is something that Foursquare is founded on. You've just been doing it naturally. But I think what I love even more is how you guys, and I'm trying to find the right words, but how you are like, hey, this is church. Like, you're really demonstrating that idea of the building is not the church. Like, we are the church. Wherever the name of Jesus is being glorified and lifted up is church. And Amen. I have that same belief system and mindset of like, hey, Jesus loved me enough to come to where I was at in my yuck, in my muck, but he loved me enough to not let me stay there. And he's like, hey, let me show you a better way. And that's what you guys are doing. And there's no time limit on that. Like, I feel like so many people are like, either A, you need to clean yourself up before you come to church, or B, we're going to meet you, and within a couple months, like, you need to be quote unquote right with the Lord.
Free of drugs and all everything.
Yeah. And it's like, nah, that's something I have been learning more and more since I've been here in Belize, even, of like, people, like you said, people can encounter Christ and accept the Lord, accept Jesus as Lord and Savior, and maybe accept him as Savior, not quite identify him as Lord yet per se, but they're working out their faith. And we get to walk that out with them. And you are doing that in such a beautiful way. I love, love, love how you guys are like, nah, there's not a set schedule. There's not a set like order of service. We're going to come, we're going to share the word. But what you had said that really stuck out to me is you're like, we do this little devotional and then church starts. And church was what you just described was relationship and maybe worship. And I was like, it's not church starts and then you did all this stuff. You're like, hey, we shared this little bit and then church started. Yeah. That really like stuck out to me. So thank you for even sharing that perspective and about it. And yeah, you shared a testimony already about that man who's like, hey, I don't know where else to go. I just know I want my son to be dedicated. And that's a beautiful testament to your obedience and faithfulness to the Lord of what he's asked you to do. And
thank you.
Yeah. So that is so good. We obviously want people to come to know Jesus, but I don't think that anybody hearing this podcast is ever going to know the full extent of how many people know the Lord because of our faithfulness, right? We don't save people. You and I don't save people. That's Jesus. But I think that we all, especially I think being workers on the field and pastors, are like, am I making an impact? Are people really coming to, we're not about numbers, but at the same time, it is kind of nice to know, like, what's the impact that we're making?
Right.
And so
where's the fruit?
Yeah, where's the fruit? And so all of that to say, it's a very roundabout way of getting to this question of, have you seen, since you've started these street ministries, people come kind of full circle and come out of their addiction and now serving with you guys, or have you yet to see that?
We have yet to see people come out and then come back to serve with us. We had a couple people try it and it didn't work out very well. And I said, nope, not because you're starting to lose your own sobriety. Because the scene is very ingrained. The scene that we go to is one of the hardest scenes here in Bielefeld, where people truly, they're in there for 30, 40, some even up 50 years they've been in the drug scene. So
wow.
We've got kids who've grown up in it and have been on the streets since they were 11, and it's just not the scene. Also within the German social system, the social system pays for rent, it pays for a lot of different things, and so they've figured out how to use the system to make this a career. To not have to really get out, to not really have to do detox or things like that. So when they go into detox, it's more of a 3-week pick me up, get me healthy enough so that I can continue using. It's a very different kind of a scene. I don't have a lot of the testimonies where people have gotten completely out. I do have a handful. I would say about 6.
Awesome.
But I do also have a list of names, 17 names, those that I know and have prayed with and have talked with, that I believe are in heaven today because they died of overdoses or were never able to get out of the scene. But I know that they were doing their best to follow the Lord, even if it was on their deathbed the night before. They nodded because they couldn't speak and said, I'm ready. I want to meet Jesus.
Wow.
So I think that those are testimonies as well.
Absolutely.
And in the end, we do get out. You get to heaven, you're out. You're free of all those things too. So
yeah, amen.
It's a little different. I'm looking forward to the day when I have more testimonies of those who completely get out. But as I said, a lot of times they move on and I don't necessarily hear about them because my calling is to be with those that are kind of stuck in this place.
Yeah. That's so strong. That's a great encouragement and reminder to us of be present. Like, be present with the one in front of you. Sure, we would love to hear all these testimonies of, like you said, people that have gotten out, or, in my context, like kids that are serving the Lord for their whole life or whatever. But like, I look at this picture of this little boy. I don't remember his name, but I'm like, what is he doing? Where is he in the world? What's going on? And I'll never know, but I know that I had 3 hours with him. And so it's like, are we being obedient and stewarding the time that the Lord's given us with the one in front of us? And I think you are. I believe that you are doing that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So shifting gears just a little bit, you are the first person on the podcast who is in kind of the same context of me, of being a single female on the field. And if there's a second season of this podcast, which I believe there will be, I hope there will be, I would love to do kind of a more of a panel whole episode on singleness in the field. But I want to address that. Like, I want to just take a few minutes and just kind of talk through that with you of what has that experience been like for you of being single, right? It's like, I know there's pros and cons. I know that there have been times that I've sat on the kitchen floor bawling my eyes out because I'm like, I can't do this all by myself, Lord. What the heck, And then there's other days that I'm like, I don't need a man. I don't need this. I got this. Let's go. If anyone's listening and you are a single male, I am just joking about that. No. And I'm believing, right? I'm fully believing that for me, and I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but like, I believe the Lord has somebody for me for ministry partnership. And for the Lord spoke to me years ago that my future spouse is holding a strategic key for the kingdom and ministry that will unlock ministry things in my life that I don't know anything about. Anyways, so I'm still believing all that. And at the same time, I'm not one, and I know that you're not one, to just sit back and be like, well, I'm going to twiddle my thumbs until my spouse comes, So all that to say, like, talk to me about your experience. What are some pros? What are some challenges that you've kind of had?
Yeah. Well, pros, I would say immediately is you don't have to take the time to care for family or your husband or things like that. You can give everything in your full time for Jesus. And that is a pro. It can also be a con because as you are flexible and able to jump and be spontaneous and go to the next ministry opportunity or spend a little more extra time with somebody because you recognize this person needs that, and you don't have to check with somebody or figure out who's going to pick up the kids or those daily things that I see others doing. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility that I have. And at the con side of that is it's very easy to let that fill up my entire life because I don't have someone that's naturally there to help me have a personal life and a family life outside of church, outside of ministry, outside of what's going on. And so it's easy to become a ministry-holic or a workaholic in that sense.
Yeah.
And that can be very dangerous, especially for a missionary, single missionary on the field. You can burn out really fast. So I'm constantly working on that and working on building friendships and working on recognizing that when you're married, you have like one really deep relationship and good friends, hopefully. And if you're not married, then you need to have a broader network of friends, and maybe you are lucky enough to have one or two really good friends that are going to be able to walk with you through your stuff and be prayer partners and things like that with. But you need to have a network of friends. You need to have that social interaction because I can get in work mode and just go. And other thing that's really good about being single in the field though is that I can do a whole lot more for less.
Hey, yeah.
Money wise.
Yeah.
You know, you got a family, you got kids, you need a bigger car, you need a bigger apartment, you need to send your kids to school and all the expenses that come with that. And rent here in Germany is very similar to big cities in the US. For this apartment, it's $800 to $1,000 a month for rent. And then you've got, you know, gas for your car, you've got your utilities, you've got electricity, you've got internet, and whatever else, monthly bills to pay. And it adds up during the month. So I can, as a single person, I can get a smaller apartment. I can get a smaller car. I can do a whole lot more for less money. And I can budget with a lower budget and be frugal. And that's a lot easier. Some challenges, as you kind of said, there are times when it can be very lonely. And the biggest one, like during holidays, that's a big one.
Yes.
It's hard to be away from family during holidays because you see everybody else with their families, and that because it's family time. And so you're kind of like, yay. It's hard when you have difficult decisions to make. All of us there are times when you have to make life-changing decisions or just difficult decisions. And it's great if you have a partner to bounce ideas off of and try to pray together and hear together. But when you're single, you don't have that.
Right.
So it's make it or break it with Jesus.
Yeah. Let me ask you before you move on, because I know you have a few more. What have you found to be helpful, or like what practices have you kind of put in place for your life to help in those moments of big decision making or things like that? Because I know there's a lot of singles on the field. I know there's a lot of singles who are wanting to go on the field, but how have you kind of navigated that whole decision making process?
I go a lot off of I call it the principle that from Joshua, where the Lord had to tell Joshua, be strong and courageous, like 5 times in the course of 2 books. Or 2 chapters, actually, because at the end of Deuteronomy, you have Moses telling him this, and then you have the Lord saying it 3 times to him, and then it's again spoken to him from the people and confirmed. So I kind of go, okay, Lord, I know that you can confirm your word. I can know that you are more than capable than speaking. So if I have something that I think the Lord is saying and I need to kind of test and prove this, or if I need a big decision and I'm just not quite sure which direction, I'll ask the Lord to confirm it with 2 or 3 witnesses. I'll ask leaders, are you is this in unity? Is this something that you see me doing or in my life? Am I being healthy in this decision and certain things? I'll look for the Lord to say it to me in any way that he wants to confirm it and to repeat it and say yes and give me peace about it. And I will look for the response kind of from the people, so to speak. I'll look for the confirmation that I take a step of faith and the response is, yes, the door is opening, or yes, this is happening, or God's providing, or whatever it is, that the blessing is there and we're moving forward. So I'll look for those open doors. It's kind of like, that's my process that I just kind of work through things. That means I need to have other people in my life that I trust. I need to have leaders, and I need to have good sisters and brothers who can give me good feedback and who know me, which means having a personal social life and good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. That's helpful. That's very helpful. So yeah, you can go ahead and continue if you want on, you were saying some pros and cons of being single on the field, or what's hard, what's great, all that stuff.
Well, pretty
Or
much
we
in
can
that
move on.
same list of loneliness is when you're going through difficult times, because on the field, you're going to hit things that are hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's unexpected things, and things will go differently than you expect. I don't care how well organized you are.
Yeah. Married or single for the note.
Married or single, it's
Yeah.
just going to go different than you expect, and your vision and all that stuff is great, and God's going to do something different, and the world's going to be a little bit different, the culture's going to be different, and it's just going to go different than what you expect. So that's hard. And there are difficult times in relationships, and there are difficult times with conflicts and culture shock and all these things. And going through that alone is doubly hard as a single person on the field. So to answer maybe your next question, how have I dealt with that? Critically important to have a spiritual covering. If it's not on the field, because when you're first deployed, you don't always have that built up yet, but to have that in your sending churches, or the people that are praying for you, and people that you can, thankfully over Zoom and other social media platforms, we can stay in touch with, that you check in with, and that are being there, walking with you spiritually through that, as well as building and investing in that one or two people, those good friends that are your prayer partners, that are going to walk with you through things. And that takes time, but it also takes intentionality to be intentional about it. And so that, I think, is very important for a single person on the field, especially a single woman on the field, because we're just emotional relationship people, and
darn
we
hormones.
need that. Yeah, we really need it. So that's something that's very critical, to not be the loner, not try to do it all alone, but to intentionally have people in your life, build it up before you deploy if you can, and then have that support system and care system already in place.
Yeah, that is so strong and so correct. I agree with that, where I have those people where it's like, I've got my everyday Marco Polo people that's like, we talk every single day on Marco Polo, but then I have those people that we don't maybe talk every day, but I know in an instant I can be like, hey y'all, this is hard. Like, I need you to pray for me. I need you to cover this. I have those overseas or in the States, but then I'm developing that almost 4 years in. I'm starting to see that here. Like you said, I think that, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think a lot of times we might have this mindset sometimes of, oh, I'm going to go to the field, I'm instantly going to have friends, and I'm instantly going to have this and this. And for me, it was a long process, and it was hard for me to go through that. I mean, there was some pride that the Lord had to work out in me of like, who do you think you are, just because you're the missionary anyways. But then it's like, for me in my context, there have been some situations where I'm like, I just want a friend, but everybody has, because of culture, viewed me kind of on the same level of, you're clergy, you're this, so therefore we can't be friends, from this like honor type of position, which is beautiful, right? Like that they show such honor. But I was like, no, y'all, I just want you to come play games at my house and be my friend. So
yeah, I just need friendly time.
Yeah. And now I'm at the place where there are, I'm going to say 2 people, maybe 3 people, like females. They're a little bit younger than me, but they are finally not calling me Coach Stacy. They're just saying Stacy, or like,
Cool.
Hey, do you want to go hang out? Like, you want to do this? But it's been a process, and it's been a journey, like you were saying. And I think, and I'd love to hear kind of your insight and opinion on this, and how it plays out for you in your context, is another key thing for anybody. Yes. But I think especially for singles, because of what you said about how we can be married to ministry, we can be so like, I have no one else to care for, so I'm going to work my butt off, is the practice of Sabbath, right? Like, it is so important for anybody in ministry, not in ministry, married, single, just followers of Jesus, to practice Sabbath. It's doubly important for those of us that are in ministry full time, like as our full time careers. So, what does that practice look like for you? And what do you like to do for Sabbath?
Yeah, so my Sabbath is on Mondays, because Sundays is a work day for church clergy people.
If you think it's not church people, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, it's very much work. The weekend is really the hard one. Thursday to Sunday are like, go time. And Monday is my Sabbath. And I actually try to turn my phone off
Mm.
I turn my work phone off and um, to really just get out somehow, whether it's get out in my mind in terms of hanging out at home reading a book, or I'll go outside the city. I'll go somewhere exploring. In the summertime, I like to go on walks or hikes. I'll go explore just the surrounding areas. I love nature. Nature helps me just be at peace. It just speaks to me. I see God everywhere in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Just, or behind it, I should say, and just feel closer and able to just kind of let go and just be.
Yeah.
And that's a big part for me. If there was water in the area, I would do it. I miss the water. But that also is another one. Also things that are, I call them stress-free activities. So going to the gym, going to the sauna, playing a basketball game, or playing my saxophone. I play saxophone, or whatever it is, just stress-free activities that feed my soul. The Sabbath isn't about sitting around doing nothing. It's about meeting God, being in that sense of being without having to do, and in the joy and in the fullness of what He has for us and what He's given us. So there is activity that's fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I love it. This has been such a hopeful and encouraging conversation. Thank you again for taking time out of your day. And as we get close to wrapping up, just wanted to have two more questions for you. What advice would you give to somebody who is wanting to explore full-time missions work, whether it's stateside or abroad, right? Because ultimately, I think a goal would be for national churches to get to the point where they're sending missionaries out, right? Like, hey, Belize is very far from that, but Germany might already have Foursquare missionaries that have been sent out. So kind of across the board, what kind of advice would you give to people that are wanting to pursue this or feel called to this full-time vocational ministry?
I would tell them to go on short-term trips first. I would tell them to keep the fire and fuel the flames, so to speak, by going on short-term trips and seeing and while they're going, just hearing from the Lord and seeing what's happening. Whether it's a short-term trip to, if they already have a country or a place in mind they kind of want to go to, go there. If they don't, and see where God kind of teaches you along the way what He puts on your heart while doing the mission. That's a big one. That's how I got it. While doing the missions, I felt like that call, and I think that that's a great practice. Even if you end up staying in country and reaching your neighbors, doing missions with your neighbors, the life changes and experiences that you have with God on a short-term trip, on regular trips, will change who you are and have impact into that. So
absolutely,
that's a big one. Second, I'd tell you to speak to your pastor or leader, so whatever your pastor and spiritual leader is, and let them know. Let them know what your heart is, what you feel like you might be called to this. That's kind of not only their job, but they have a heart for you, and their job is to help get you to your dream and to what God has for you. So let them know, and see what their reaction is. Get that confirmation. My leader, my pastor, believes in me and believes that this is for me too. And that was a huge thing for me when I talked to my pastor. I said, I think I should be called to this full time. And I had no idea that Foursquare had a missions program, but so what do you think? And he said, absolutely. This is totally you. And it was just such a confirmation. And then he was the best champion and open doors and networks and help that get the ball rolling and the process started. So speak to your pastor, leaders, good trusted friends who will pray for you and walk with you through it, because it's one thing to feel like you want to go and feel like you're called. It's another thing to actually get there.
Yeah.
And that's its own process, often a harrowing one. And so talk to people ahead of time. Just say, this is what I feel like I might be saying, and I'm asked them to pray with you and wait with you for God's confirmation and see how that comes together. So the next thing I would say is we have our vision, but as I already said, things will change and be different than what we expect. So go to serve people, not do a certain thing. You might have a plan, and maybe you'll get to do your plan. But missions isn't about doing a ministry. It's about people. So go to serve the people and do that on your short-term trips. Get that heart and really realize missions is just serving. And if you go to serve the people in any context, any place, any national church, they are going to love you, because you're not coming in and telling them what they should be doing. You're coming in and just serving them in their context and where they're at. And that will open doors, and that will build those relationships that you need to go in the future.
Yes. Yes.
And then the last thing is, as much as possible, try to clarify the vision. You feel called where? Do you have
Mhm.
a space, a place, or whatnot? You don't, okay, go on trips and try to, see God, where might you be leading me? What might you want to do? What has He put on your heart to do? Maybe you have it, maybe you don't. You don't always need to have this is, you're going to start this house and you're going to do this. And you don't always have to have A to Z. But getting a clarity. I spent a lot of time asking the Lord, what do you have for me? What is the vision? And I knew it was evangelism and discipleship, which was very unclear to me. And I was like, great, but at
Very
least
broad.
those two. Very broad. It could be a lot of things in that. And I knew it was to pray. And I was like, okay, you want me to be a prayer and intercessor person? Okay. I was like, thank you, Lord. That's great. And I had no idea how important that was until I got here.
Wow.
Clarifying the vision for me isn't necessarily about having your blueprint of what you're going to do. It's what are you really called to be? And as you hear from the Lord and He's called you to be, He's called you to be an intercessor or prayer person, He's called you to do evangelism and discipleship. Those might be broad, but as you then get into context and things change and things move around, you'll still be able to do what you're called to do.
So good.
Clarify those things as much as possible.
Yeah.
And
That
then
is so
be
good.
flexible.
Right? Well, not used to, I still say it all the time, is the only consistent thing in ministry is change. like you
Be
can just
flexible.
count on things changing. And yeah, that's great advice, is just to be flexible. Everything that you said is super helpful. And wanted to just quick point out, you had mentioned, hey, go to your pastors, because your pastor is someone who should champion you and be that biggest champion. And I just wanted to take a minute and just address the pastors that are listening, those pastors that have sent us out already.
Mm-hmm.
And on behalf of all workers, say thank you. Like, thank you for being in our corner, because without you guys as pastors and champions, we wouldn't be here. Without our financial partners, we wouldn't be here. I know I've told you offline, and I think I've said it before on the podcast, but it's like my sending pastor, when I went to he and his wife, they are not just my sending pastors, they're my closest friends. And I told them what I was sensing the Lord. They were like, finally, like, we've been seeing this, but I know I could talk to every single worker on the field, all 400 plus that we have through FMI. Well, maybe 300, because FMI counts kids as workers, because they very much are. But the kids probably didn't have this conversation with their senior pastor. But all the adults that I've talked to, I could pretty much guarantee they all would say, this person was in my corner. This pastor was in my corner, and they championed me. So thank you, pastors and leaders, for championing us and just being in our corner. And talking about how you're talking about the vision. I love that you said that too, where it's like, yeah, write the vision, make it clear, but also know it might change. And it's like, I think that we as missionaries sometimes get so focused in on this exact little portion of the vision that when it shifts slightly, we're like, but wait, that's not what. And it's like, no, it is. It's under the big umbrella. And like you said, I knew I was called to be a prayer warrior, to be evangelism and outreach. Like, yes, those are big, but they're also very specific. And I love that so much. I've been working through, with my time with the Lord, just the whole idea of, Lord, I don't want just another program. Like, we don't need more programs in our churches. We don't need more programs in missions. We need partnership. We need relationship. And so like you said, if you go there for the people, not the program, then you're going to be a success. Like, that ministry is going to take off. And you have to have a heart for the people that you're serving. I've been praying that even more recently, of just like, Lord, break my heart again for the people that I serve, and there's not really a time that I am talking about the people and the kids in my yard and these people that I get to walk life with that I don't tear up, because I'm just like, gosh, I just love these people. I could sit here and talk about this all day, especially, like I said, because Germany and German people do hold a very close part in my heart. I in my living room have like posters that I've created of all the different countries that I have visited in the world. And within the outline, it's like photos from that trip. So rather than like collecting knickknacks or whatever, I love taking pictures and doing that. And so then I did like a collage within the outline of the country, right? So I have the outline of Germany on my wall and a few other countries. And I just love it because all the people that are in that photo are people that I did ministry with and that I loved and that I rubbed elbows with and that I played soccer with. Y'all call it football, right?
Football.
Football. Yeah. That I played football with that I had no business playing football with.
They're good. Those little kids could run around me like 50 times.
No, this story is there was a miscommunication with the team leader, and the German contact thought that we were a professional US team.
Oh my
and
goodness.
So he lined up actual matches with German footballers. And I'm like, what? I played keeper when I was in 5th grade. And so they put me in the goal, and I've got these giant German guys. I'm like, y'all can just score. I'm not even going to try and block those.
Like, nope.
So anyways, as we finish up, very last question, because we're unfortunately at time and I want to let you go to bed because it's late for you. How can people connect with you? So if people want to hear more about what is going on in Germany, what's going on in your ministry, all the things, do you have a newsletter, like social media? What are all the ways people can connect with you? And I will also link them in the show notes below.
Yeah. There are 3 main ways. One is over Facebook. I have a Facebook page and Messenger and all that kind of stuff connected with Facebook. It's my initials, AMD, capital D, Deutschland. Deutschland is the German word for Germany. So AM Deutschland is my page. That's easier to remember sometimes. But you could also just look up AM for Anna Marie in Germany updates, and it would bring you to that as well. Then you have email. I do send out newsletters, and my email is a great way to just for initial contact as well. I also have a WhatsApp prayer list. Basically, it's a broadcast list, and every week you get a little prayer prompt with a few points of, hey, we're headed to the street church. You can be praying for this, or this event is happening, or this team is coming. It's basically once a week. It's short. It's not a chat, so you're not getting everybody's thumbs ups and likes or whatever. You just get a private message from me, but everybody gets the same message. Mm-hmm. And you can respond to it and I can respond back. So if that's something that you have on your heart of to be a prayer person and to stay like regularly updated, that goes out, like I said, every week. And that would be awesome. So you just have to have WhatsApp on your phone. Okay. And I need your number. So email me your number and connect up with me and we can get that set up.
Awesome. And so if people want to join your newsletter, they also just send you an email saying like, hey, add me to the newsletter. Cool. Hey, Absolutely. Add me to your newsletter.
Yes, we're working on revamping the newsletter. So I will definitely put you on the list, Stacey. I would love to have some of you in my newsletters.
That is a constant thing, right? The unspoken side of missions is updating newsletters, which I love. I love communicating, but that's a whole nother conversation. So Anna Marie, thank you so much for taking time. It flew by. But I loved hearing about what God is doing through you in Germany and in the lives of the men and women that you touch. So thank you for saying yes to the Lord. And thank you for saying yes to being on this podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a lot of fun too. And it's great to just think about, hey, maybe we'll get some future missionaries out of this coming to the field. I would love it. Come to Germany. I'll help you. I'll put you to work.
There you go. Yeah, Germany's a great place. Go visit. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much again for joining.
Good. Thank you.
Whew. That was a powerful conversation. We covered so much, but I think it is so beautiful, the work that God is doing through Anna Marie and her team in the streets of Bielefeld. It's beautiful. I love how she is so passionate about meeting people where they are and introducing them to Jesus. Hey, I love you so much that I want to introduce you to Jesus. And you know what? You don't have to come to a church building. I love that perspective, how she was like, hey, we do a Devo and then we have church. And church looks like conversation and worshiping and having sandwiches and tea. And I think there's things that we all could take from that mindset and that model. I had no idea that Germany was such a refuge for people from North Africa and just even that whole Minica area. And I love how the church that she's serving in is seeing that need and meeting that need. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Hey, if you guys heard anything in this conversation today that is stirring your heart and you want to learn more about what's going on and be kind of more intimately involved, go to her Facebook page that's listed below. There's also a video down there that kind of talks more about what she's doing in Germany and what the Lord's invited her into. And if you would like to financially partner with what Anna Marie is doing, her give page is listed below as well. Just click that link. And like I've said before, monthly partnership makes the biggest impact. And so I just want to invite you, join her team. She has a WhatsApp group that is strictly for prayer. So if you are a prayer intercessor and you want to keep Germany at the forefront of your prayers, shoot her an email and she'll add you to the newsletter if you want that, but she'll also add you to her WhatsApp group. So many ways to connect with her and what the Lord is doing in Germany. So until next time, remember, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your Lord. You are on mission, whether it's in your backyard, across the street, or around the globe.